Let's hit you with some facts. Kenyan small and medium enterprises comprise 96% of the total businesses and provide employment to over 5 million in the country. Around 2 million SMEs are contributing to 75% of the labor force and 18% of the country's GDP. Now compare this to small countries like Thailand, where SMEs contribute to about 42% of the GDP. My next guest says this gap exists because of limited access to markets, inadequate business skills and technology, lack of effective capacity building programs, in addition to informal sector, this case being Juakali, and access to finance. Sriram Baratam is co-founder of Kuza Biashara and joins me now. His mission is to make starting and running a small and medium enterprise simple, fast, and cost-effective. Many thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Larry.
What was the idea behind Kuza Biashara?
When I first came to Nairobi, it was September 2010. I looked around. I was pretty impressed with the infrastructure that you already have, with the cables, the internet bandwidth, and the 3G network and all that. What I realized is it is the capacity of these small and micro business owners, which is the existing gap. And if someone really works towards strengthening that gap, I think sky's the limit.
So you came from Nairobi, you came to Nairobi from India, where you had already been involved in some massive activity. For instance, you raised, I think, just over $1 million within 45 days. Tell us about that.
Oh, it was in the year 1999 when
Yes.
there was a cyclone in India.
Yes.
I lost my passport and I was in my hometown.
Right.
I had all the time in the world. It's just before the Christmas.
Right.
I thought if each Indian can contribute a single cent, we have enough fund available for a cause.
Yes.
And I went about thinking through that crazy idea and then said, you know, what if everybody can donate by actually not paying?
Right.
It is the power of micropayments. So we created a website called causeandeffect.org. It's a website where you just go visit the website, click on a button there called Save a Life, and a page opens with 18 brands showcasing their identity. And each brand in return would pay the website 1 cent.
Right.
That is one click by you actually generates 18 cents. And remember, Larry, it is 1999 when the internet penetration was not that high.
Internet, even marketing and fundraising was not
It was not even heard of.
yet.
Even the Google AdWords was not there that time.
Right.
But if you see, it is a purpose. If you're laser focused with a simple purpose, and if you have a simple and stupid idea which can work and which can scale, I think that's the real mantra.
You spoke at Connected Kenya, which we were talking with Oles a little earlier, and one of the main things you said is, if you have an idea, keep it short and keep it stupid.
Yes. I would say keep it simple and keep it stupid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it is important for a common man to be able to relate and connect. While we keep talking about cloud computing and all these big things, it is that common man at the ground level that he needs to understand.
Yes.
For example, let me take this example of the cab driver who drives me around in Nairobi, even
Right.
today. His name is Timothy. Now this guy, I'm so impressed with his IQ. He reads the Nation Media newspaper every day.
Yes.
And he's the one who actually reads and analyzes the entire news and tells me. And he's my first customer who I actually started working on.
Right.
He's got his own personal website now. He still drives a cab for the last 15 years.
Yes.
Just last week, he managed to get a loan. He's actually buying his new car.
Excellent.
Okay, now he's actually on a BlackBerry. These days, we don't even call each other. We text each other. I was in Dubai saying, Tim, my flight is late by 2 hours. And this guy is BBMing me saying that, you know, okay,
Brilliant.
perfect.
Yes.
So this is really working. Now, when you keep an idea simple and stupid, the guy should not have the fear that, you know, the real fear is the fear of unknown.
Yes.
They're afraid when you really go in, like a big corporate and start talking big things, they just can't connect. If you really go down to the grassroots level and start talking simple things and do it one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, that's really where we realize that the best way to reach out to them is to produce 2-minute videos.
Yes.
On Kuza Biashara, we have something called how-to videos.
Yes.
Anything on how-to. How-to on finance, marketing, sales, all of this. How to hire an employee, how to take a bank loan, how to do all this stuff. You may ask, why 2 minutes?
Yes.
Because the small business owners are very impatient. They're like me. They just want everything chop chop.
You don't have time for 10-minute videos.
You don't have time for 10-minute videos. I don't want to go sit in an MBA class and all that. You just want to get it in clear steps and tips. And these are very powerful. You can watch them on your mobile. You can watch them on the move. You're waiting in the Nairobi traffic. You can still catch up. And there's a large community with whom you can interact and learn from them.
So what is the business angle behind doing 2-minute how-to videos on YouTube? You're posting it specifically for a Kenyan audience.
Yes. I'm very proud to say this is actually a Kenyan innovation.
Right.
And we have actually employed already 55 plus Kenyans. We have presence in 22 locations across Kenya. It's not actually a Nairobi, Mombasa kind of an initiative.
Cities, yes.
It is actually from the grassroots level. It's a bottoms up. The key really is we have actually created a very innovative business model. And we've aligned along with one of the leading telecom operator. And
Yes.
together we are actually able to go to the market and service them by actually giving them discounted airtime
Yes.
and also data plans along with the capacity building. So that's how we are actually going to the market.
Why does the average SME need a service like this? For what?
An average SME, actually, they don't know what they don't know. The interesting thing is they just don't know what they don't know.
Yes.
And it's extremely, extremely important for them to know what they don't know. When you show them the possibilities, and they are just about to fly.
Because sometimes we assume I'm going to start a business, what I'm an expert in is buying and importing cars.
Yeah.
And therefore I know all the connections and I'm fine, so I think I can start in this business.
Yeah. But the interesting fact with all of us forget is you are
Yes.
very good, you understand the car business, you can import, you can do all that.
Yes.
But you need to understand finance. How do you manage your finance? You need to account how much to pay the tax.
Yes.
You need to hire employees.
How much do you pay
How
them?
much do you pay them? And how do you expect a small little brain of a small entrepreneur to understand so much of them? And this is where either they go hire consultants.
Yes.
And the fear of consultants, they don't know. And they fear that, these guys take away a lot of money.
Yes.
And they just don't know who is the right guy. So it is that confidence, it is that kind of a trust that they need. Kusa Bishar is actually going to be a trusted companion for small business owners to be able to talk. We are actually building a large community.
Yes.
We're also creating something called SME Guru, where we are getting a group of advisors who would actually be in a position to do one-on-one using internet as a backbone to help these small business owners to understand and ask those sensitive questions which they're generally afraid of asking anybody.
It looks to me like kuzabishara.co.ke, your website, you're building it into a portal of sorts for a resource center for SMEs. Is that the case?
It is actually going to be a resource. It's already a resource.
Yes.
We have more than 400 plus videos already there. And we have been consciously doing the SME interviews, the small business owners interviews.
Right.
And trying to give them this as a platform so that they can showcase and they can launch themselves. Yes, this is actually going to be one of the most referred resource for small business owners.
400 videos must have cost a lot to produce.
It's actually a lot of money.
Right.
And I remember when I first came, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to produce these films. I went around looking for the guys who can actually produce these videos.
Yes.
They asked me anywhere from 1 million to 2 million to produce a video.
Right.
And that's reality, okay? But I wanted to do it at a scale. Then we figured out, we actually put our method to the madness.
Yes.
And I went to Daystar, I went to all these schools, picked up these smart kids who are fresh from the college,
Yes.
managed to bring one of the professors from the leading mass communication school in India. And this guy, along with his team of 2-3 people,
Yes.
they've actually trained more 100 people in Kenya. And we've actually used more than 100 plus people.
Right.
And who are all pretty much interns and students from the schools and colleges.
They have the skills, but at the very beginning of their
actually,
careers,
they're
yes.
just beginning of the career. They don't have the confidence. All we said is it's our own product. We
Yes.
can afford to make a mistake.
Right.
But believe me, Larry, the quality is actually high definition quality. And
Yet
we
you
are
have been able, at least that way, to keep the costs low.
Exactly. We managed to keep the cost low. It's a startup, end of the day.
Yes.
And I've been actually funding this entire initiative. It's very hard to go convince people and investors that you have a dream and you want to realize it. And thanks to the Vision 2030 Innovation Award that we just received last week,
Yes.
it's actually strengthening our trust and confidence that
Congratulations about that. The Vision 2030 ICT Innovation Award you received at Connected Kenya. What is that all about? And I'm sure it's a big deal for you and your team.
exactly. And see, they all had trust and belief in me. And they all have been looking at me and then they said, okay, whatever this guy is doing, I'm sure he knows what he's doing.
Yes.
Between you and me, I had no clue. I had a very simple vision
Right.
that I want to touch. My big, hairy, audacious goal is to have 1 million micro and small business owners by 2015 March. That's what we are really going after. Everybody in my team, 55 plus people, believe in it. This Vision 2030 Innovation Award is just a testimony
Yes.
and a confidence to the entire team that we are in the right direction and we are moving in the right path.
All right, stay with us because when we come back, I want us to talk about raising money. For instance, we're hearing news that a startup, Instagram, getting $1 billion from Facebook. Would we ever get to that scale? And what is the scene like right here in Kenya for somebody who's been there? Then yes, the name is Punjab, not Punjab. My untrained Kenyan mouth does not know how to say this. Sriram Baratam is back with me. And we were talking earlier before we went on the break on raising money. And the one thing which I'm still flabbergasted by is how a 551-day-old startup, that is Instagram, which just makes photos odd, can raise 1 billion shillings and be sold for 1 billion shillings to Facebook. when a much older company, the New York Times, is valued for much less. And that is perhaps what it is best indicative of the internet age we live in today. Companies with a few lines of code can get very high valuations, and investors who put in $500,000, I think a few days ago, have just had the value doubled. In your experience in here in Kenya, how easy is it to even get funding, get noticed?
Let me take this question in two parts. Right?
Yes.
Okay. It's not the volume, it's not the size that matters any longer. It is the idea that matters. And this is one message that I want to share with other Kenyan entrepreneurs who are out there,
right,
who are actually buzzing with so many ideas. You see so many of them at iHub and at different places. It's extremely important that you focus, you believe in your idea, and you crazily go after that. One day, there will be somebody who will come and handhold you.
Yes.
It is that period of time when people actually lose their heart and drop off.
Right.
It's extremely, extremely important for you to sustain. When it comes to the question of Instagram getting about $1 billion billion actually, valuation, it's also the timing. Okay, the opportunity and everything is like, there is a timing. You just need to be there at the right time, at the right place, and do the right thing.
Yes.
A lot of people I have known, at least a couple of hundred people whom I went to school at MIT. These guys always had good ideas, but it's execution, that's where they kind of lacked. Instagram has been consistent. They've been doing it so consistently, but they had an end in mind, I believe. Coming to the Kenyan market, I still believe the investment scenario or the environment out here is still not that friendly. I didn't really go out, start exploring and talking to many people, but I believe at times like this, if we are able to really rally and bring in a group of early stage investors on board, and if some of these innovations like the Vision 2030 Innovation Awards and also these that are happening at iHub, if they are given the right kind of support and momentum, I think we are actually at the right.
To some extent, there's interest in the investor stage, or rather the startups and entrepreneurs in this country. For instance, just today at the EIA Center, I believe from 6 p.m., there's a team of investors, VCs and others who are meeting just with entrepreneurs to try and lock brains and see if we can give you some money. But what I hear sometimes from VCs out of Europe and America is we don't see Kenyan companies that have the kind of scale we need so that we can put in €1 million. Is that necessarily justified?
From their point of view, probably yes, because they are looking for, whether invest in 10 companies or in one company, they would look for investing in one company.
Right.
But I don't think we have those kind of ideas and those kind of investment opportunities. But that's where probably some of these guys need to be a little flexible. Look around spreading the risk and kind of see what is the right investment that they can really go after.
An idea like Kuza Biashara, if it was somewhere else, if it was in Silicon Valley, you probably would have already several investors knocking your door and you'd have to turn people down.
Absolutely.
But that is not the case right now. You're funding it yourself.
Yes. I'm just trying to prove it. It's like a case in point. For an idea like this, which can get the kind of traction that we gained in the last 3 quarters, and where there is a good acceptance of the market, if in Silicon Valley, I'm sure we would have raised a couple of $1 million much earlier.
Right.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg game.
It's a chicken and egg situation indeed. Tell me, as a foreigner who was coming into Kenya to start a small business, what were your challenges or what has that experience been like?
Oh yeah, I came along with the NASSCOM delegation. NASSCOM is like the ICT board, it's a governing IT board from India. And I fell in love with Nairobi and especially Kenya.
We're a lovable country, I can see why. I know, I'm kidding.
And we actually had a chance to go to Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. And I somehow could connect with Kenya more than these 2 countries. And I came back in the month of November with an idea that I would spend about a week. I ended up spending almost 7 weeks.
Right.
And every day has been a new experience. I remember going to MindSpeak session where Ali Khan Sachu was actually doing this session, and I kept my laptop bag on the chair there. In less than 10 seconds, I found that my laptop bag missing.
No kidding.
This is Westgate I'm talking. Okay, now they had the best of the security systems. Then I was not really,
But ideally as a foreigner, you say this my bag, a valuable stolen at a very high-end establishment, and you'd lose hope.
You know what? End of the day, with all the business that I have in other countries, I'm still a startup here, thanks to cloud computing. This is the real application. All my data is in the cloud. Actually, I was not really disturbed. I was very intrigued to see how this guy managed to really pick it up. That's a very skilled thing one has done. It's just that if we put the same skill to practice, I'm sure this guy can do many more innovative things than just doing this.
And can work on security software or some sort of way
something like that.
To protect valuables.
Yeah, that's one. The second challenge really is spotting the right talent. while there is very good talent, the language skills are very good.
Yes.
It is not about employees, it is about employability. The employability of these guys.
And what is the difference between that, employees and employability?
Yeah, so there is, I mean, all of us know the statistics say that all of them, almost an average Kenyan is very good in speaking English.
Yes.
The language speaking skills are there, writing skills are there, and reading skills are there. But what is missing is the application of this. I remember we actually picked up the first 10 guys out of 700 people.
Right.
10 out of 700. We had to really churn. Either there's an attitude, or not willing to really work hard, or they're just not able to comprehend. All of them want to do a cozy job at banks. We are still a startup. But then, on an average, each of the guys that we kind of employed, we're taking them through about 50 to 80 hours of training.
You're investing in them?
We are investing in them.
Yes.
And believe me, the kind of people that we have with us today, they've been with us for almost a little less than a year.
Yes.
They've become district managers, they've territory managers, they're handling very large, serious business to me for today. But thanks to the experience, the willingness to learn, and the basic capabilities are there. And that's when I realized if you are able to invest and give them the right guidance and coaching. In fact, I don't have an executive position in Kusa Beshara. I still call myself founder and a chief mentor. It's actually run by all
CEO,
Kenyans.
nothing.
No CEO, nothing. I'm saying, oh, that's not really what it is. It's just that it's really fulfilling for me if I see the young Kenyans who are able to take that kind of responsibility and manage these kind of businesses.
You're a serial entrepreneur. You have companies elsewhere in the world. Where would you go of all the places in the world, pick them up and come to Kenya and start a startup, which means going through the process of starting a company from scratch all over again?
Yeah, I keep telling this to my family. It's like, I'm like 11 years back, what I did, I'm doing all over again.
Yes.
The difference is what took me 6 years to do, I've actually been able to do in 6 months in Kenya.
Wow.
It's probably the way I've matured and the way I'm thinking. That's number one. Number two, what I really found is the environment is ready here. You have very good infrastructure of telecom. You have very good internet access. From the time I came to this country and now, the internet rates are really, really crashed.
Yes.
I have better bandwidth at my home today in Westlands than I have in my offices in India. So I'm that much more productive.
Wow.
And number three, the propensity to spend is there in this country as compared to other countries like India. India is a savings economy. Kenya is more a spending economy.
Yes.
I mean, there are a lot of jokes people keep cracking that, you know, Kenyans go clubbing, you throw all the money. But it's just that I don't think they know where to spend it otherwise.
Yes.
The average newspaper cost here is about 40 to 50 shillings.
Yes.
In India, it's about 4 to 6 shillings. You can see the difference.
Yes.
An average
10
Kenyan
times
is
less.
picking up a Nation newspaper and reading it every day by spending so much.
Sometimes buying the Nation and the Standard.
And also Standard, yeah,
Yes.
you're right. And you see in India, they buy one newspaper and about 100 people will share the newspaper.
The one Times of India copy.
One Times of India copy is actually read by about 100 people.
Wow.
So with these kind of situation, all you need to do is you need to introduce the right product. Again, I repeat, keep it simple, keep it stupid, make the 1-inchie understand this is what it is, and the guy will pick it up.
All right, Sridham, stay with us. I'm back to talk more about this and bring it to a close. It's very fascinating things. We're back in a moment. And speaking of tourism, there's a whole debate right now on Twitter about buffalo milk after Zainab's story from Punjab. This is from Kamakil and Brian Longwe, and Mudhuri Kenyamo just wonders, buffalo milk, how do you just get underneath that thing and milk it? He says, this just happens in India alone. And I think the best one was from Brian Longwe, who says I should ask Sri if he has drunk buffalo milk and whether he thinks there's a business case for it in Kenya. Have you drunk buffalo milk? Let's start there.
Buffalo milk is what we all drink in India.
Really?
That's what, for us, when you say milk, it's actually buffalo milk.
Wow, I must really. How does it taste?
I mean, I didn't really find a difference between the buffalo milk. I heard it just now.
Yes.
And probably there's a business case there.
We should start exporting that buffalo milk. We have lots of buffaloes in Kenya.
Yeah, why not? I mean, this is exactly what it is.
Yes.
Now, there's a shortage of milk in India.
Yes.
And there's excess of buffalo milk available here.
And it's going to waste because we don't drink it.
So all we need to do is to pick up a niche, identify the right way of refrigeration. Thanks to KQ, they just started a new flight directly from Nairobi to New Delhi.
Delhi, yes.
And there's a very busy sector between Nairobi and Mumbai. All we need to do is to figure out a way, and we just need to identify the right entrepreneurs here who are willing to take that extra risk and go and explore that little beyond what they are doing as an obvious.
This is a complete business case. We'll discuss this offline. The other thing we need to talk about online at least is the e-commerce in Kenya. You're involved in this space. It's very much still at its nascent stage. I don't know if you agree, and where else? What is the potential we can have here?
Larry, I completely agree to disagree with you on this.
Really, go ahead.
Really, because if you really look at it, I was sharing some of the perspectives on this. We just put together a citizen to netizen kind of a perspective, which is available on Kuza Beshara website.
Yes.
If you see, there's a transformation going on. If I call it, the movie screen as a first generation, as a 1G,
Yes.
a television screen as a 2G, and the computer screen as a 3G, and a
Yes.
mobile screen as a 4G. I believe Kenya has moved directly into 4G. You're already on 4G. People are already using it. The kind of penetration mobile had, thanks to M-Pesa and other payments, 8 out of 10 mobile payments that are done globally are done in Kenya.
All right.
Okay, the amount of volume of transaction that is done on e-commerce, through M-Pesa, is more than what Western Union is doing globally, just out of Kenya.
Right.
It's just a testimony that already you are doing e-commerce and m-commerce in Kenya. It's just that a 1inch or a small business owner need to understand how can he take his business online as a step number one. How can he have a small transaction front? I think there's some work that needs to be done. I&M, I believe, is really
already doing something
on
payments,
that. We
yes.
just need to scale this up. And if M-Pesa can also be integrated as one of the payment options from the websites, I believe that's the next big opportunity. So it's about the capacity building of these guys, believing that they can actually do this. And why not? The buffalo milk can actually be exported. And I'm sure this guy, he has a website, he talks
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
And he actually networks with the right people out of India who are willing to import.
You get a distribution network.
You get a distribution network.
Maybe
and
a supermarket
yeah,
chain.
you never know.
This could actually work, and these are the
Yeah.
opportunities we're talking about, which sometimes even we as Kenyans do not see that there's potential here,
Exactly.
which we can do.
Yeah. And also it's a mindset. We generally try to see just in our neighborhood. And at max we think, oh, you know what, I'm actually doing some trading with Naivasha,
Yes.
Nakuru. Nothing is stopping you to think beyond Kenya. Why isn't anyone, these business owners are thinking East Africa as a starter.
Right.
South partnership between India and Kenya. There's so
Yes.
much possibilities out there. So it's about now thinking it's time to export. It's time to earn foreign exchange in terms of US dollar revenue coming in. And it's just the sky is the limit in my view.
Okay, let's finish up with what are you doing with Kuza Beshara? What is the future for the company?
We're actually scaling up big time. The business model that we put together is that for every 200 small business owners that we're going to sign up, we're going to have one local guy in the neighborhood who is actually going to support them.
Yes.
And as I told you, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to have 1 million SMEs by 2015 March. And we are working backwards with that end in mind.
All right.
And you can just do a simple math and see we can actually employ about 5,000 Kenyans just around Kuza Beshara. And that possibility and that difference that we can make to this country is what really excites me.
Okay, Sriram, we'll leave it there. Many thanks, co-founder of Kuza Beshara. Lots of people love the interview. Ignatius Ngari says we should have you back on again. Please come back again.
Thank you very much.
We'd love to have you on. So many others. I'll read more of that later.